What would you do if you found out when you're selling your home that you don't own legal title to your home anymore? That's the question we're going to talk about today. Hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Todd.
And we are the Bald Brothers team here at Impact Properties. And we are glad that you've tuned back into the All Things Real Estate Show. We've got some great information for you today. And we are just grateful that you're here. But before we do that, Todd, how can they get a hold of us?
They can get a hold of That's a great question, Aaron. They can call us at 833-305-BALD. 833-305-BALD, as in follically challenged, because we are the Bald Brothers team at Impact Properties. You can also go to baldbrothers.tv, baldbrothers.tv, and you can get all of our links from there as well.
Hey, I'm really excited to announce that we are in the process of publishing a book.
Yes.
And it's How to Sell As Is. And guess where it's going to be available?
Where is it going to be available?
Of all places, it's going to be on Amazon.com.
Yes.
And so if you want to go check it out there in a couple of weeks, it should be available. Or we have an offer for you.
That's
What's
right.
that offer?
That offer is you can get it for free.
How much?
For free, for $0.
Yes, for $0.
How do they do that, Aaron?
They go to our website at baldbrothers.tv and they hit the submit form at the bottom and sign up for our mailing list. And we will email you a digital copy of our book.
Yep.
Once it comes out.
That's right.
So we're excited about it. It's How to Sell As Is. And given the fact that we do a lot of that these days, we wanted to make sure that we offer that to you first. So if you're watching us online on our YouTube channel, or if you're listening to us on the radio or on our podcast, head over to our website right now. Subscribe to our e-newsletter that goes out once a week, sometimes twice, if we got a great deal coming. We'll give you early advance notice of properties that are coming on the market. We'll also send you updates of the show, and we will give you behind-the-scenes footage about what's going on. So
that's right.
It's a great place to be.
Well, hey, today we are doing actually kind of part number 2.
Scams.
Yes, we loved it. Scams was so much fun to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
We had to spill over into a part 2. And last week we talked about scams. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about scams. And why don't you go ahead and head it out and let them know the first story.
So I was golfing with somebody in the industry who knows a lot of different stories about things that were going on. And we were talking about title issues. And he had heard this story, and it was about a scam. And it was very, very interesting because I had never heard of this before. But there was a scammer in California who would basically look up properties and see how they were owned. And if it was owned in an LLC, this scam artist would then create a fake deed, and he would deed the property from the LLC that's correct to a newly created LLC that was fraudulent. And he would do it by changing one letter.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you had
one letter in the name of the LLC.
One letter in the name of the LLC. So it's clearly intentional deceit.
It was an LC?
Yes, right. Yeah, no, he would not just drop. Yeah, yes. He forms an LC. Yeah. No, what he would do, for example, if the LLC, and oftentimes a homeowner or a commercial building owner will put an LLC together and then transfer the property into the LLC. That's totally legit.
It's normal.
But a lot of LLCs are formed around the address. So let's say it's 123 Main Street. Well, he would create an LLC, and he would call it 123 Main Street, but it would spell out the word street. Or he would leave out a letter, or add 2 N's to the word Main.
Wow.
And this guy did this over and over and over again, because finally he got caught. And here's how he got caught. And then we're going to talk about like the real thing for us to really take home from this, because this does not happen all the time, but this guy was proficient at what he does. What would happen is the property would go on the market, and then it would go into escrow, and then the title company would do research. And they'd be like, what's this transfer from your LLC or your name to this other LLC? Tell us about that. And the homeowner or the property owner would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's how this was discovered, because there's this new recorded deed to
Recorded
this LLC.
deed. Mm-hmm.
So they had to track down through legal procedure where this LLC and who owned it and whatnot. And so they tracked it down, and he says, "Oh, just pay me $200,000 and I will sign it right back over."
Mm-hmm.
And the homeowner in this case was like, "No way. I am not going to do that." Now the dollar value of this home was very high. And so $200,000.
What was the dollar value?
It was in the tens of millions, Todd.
Okay, yeah. So $200,000 on tens of millions is not a whole lot.
Right.
And so the scammer assumed that they just would say, "Oh, it's easier just to throw some money at it."
Exactly. Yeah. Just don't go through the legal process. I'll just sign it back over to you, and we'll all go our merry way. And I'm happy you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
But this homeowner was like, "No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do this." And rightfully so, right? So they turned it over to the FBI. FBI got involved. All the legal authorities got involved. And they went and they found this guy in Northern California. And they discovered that he had done this dozens and dozens and dozens of times, to the tune of like some $3 million that he had ransomed.
Title fraud going run amok.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy. And so I was being told the story. I'm like, wow, my listeners, our listeners, they need to know that these things can happen. But what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knew until it was already done.
That's right.
Nobody knew until it went to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked this question. I said, so what if he had only asked for $50,000 instead of stalling this whole thing? Because it delayed the whole process by over 4 months. That's how long it took the FBI to get there, to track him down. Then they had to go to court, and they had to get a judge to certify that this was a fraudulent deed, so that the title company could then move forward with clean title.
Yeah.
I said, what if he had just asked for less? What if he had asked for $50,000? He said the owner probably would have paid it.
Yeah.
And we would have gone on.
Wow. And that's how these scam artists get away with it.
That's right.
It's small amounts of money that are most people will just shrug off. It's a lot easier just to pay it than to go through the legal process of fighting it. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, if you're just listening right now, hello, we're talking about real estate scams, and we're talking about title scams specifically right now. You're listening to the Bald Brothers team at Impact Properties. We are the Bald Brothers team. You can reach us at 833-305-BALD. That's BALD, 833-305-BALD. You can also go to baldbrothers.tv, and perhaps you have a question about whether or not you might have some issues with your own title report. We can answer some of those questions for you as well.
Now, keep in mind, we're not your legal advisors. We're not even your realtors, so we don't give you legal advice. We're not giving you tax advice. We're not even telling you what to do.
Yeah, and we're not title experts either. Nope. We that's what title companies are for.
And that's the big point.
That's the big point.
You just got there.
Okay, well, let's
retract it.
Let me retract it. Okay,
go ahead.
So what's the point?
I love it. This is how we do it, people. We just, we banter back and forth until we come up with a solution. I happen to know the solution on this one. What do you do about it? It is absolutely crucial that you have a current and active title policy. Now, title policy is enacted and at the close of escrow.
Yep.
So when you close escrow, typically in California, the seller purchases a title policy that then covers the ownership guarantee that moves forward to the buyer.
Yep.
Some buyers, if they're paying cash, want to save some money, and sometimes they'll say, you know what, I don't need a title policy. Just let me buy it.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, if it had been this buyer, he's out of luck.
Yeah.
But with a title policy, with the title insurance, with the title attorneys involved, it finally he got his title restored, was able to sell it.
Yeah, title insurance should always be a part of a transaction.
That's right.
And that's what it does. It protects you against these sorts of nefarious activities that you may never know until the worst possible moment that they come up.
That's right. So, Todd, unfortunately, this is not the only kind of scam out there.
No.
Let me talk about just a real small one. And it's a small monetary thing. They don't try to steal any money, they don't try to steal your property, but they do get paid for doing something that you could get for free. And that is after you close escrow.
Mm-hmm.
The recorded documentation goes back to the parties that need it. You get copies.
Yep.
Well, there are companies that track all the recordings, and they'll send you a note really quick, like within a week or two of you getting title to your home, and it'll say, for $125, we can send you certified copies of your grant deed, blah, 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 whatever else is included. You have all that access through your escrow company and your realtor.
Yep.
So keep in mind that if anybody tries to sell you something right after you close escrow for a document that you've already signed and that has been recorded, don't pay that money.
Yeah. And the rule of thumb, if there's ever a question, contact your realtor, contact your representative who has your best interest in mind.
Yeah, we get calls all the time. Yeah. Is this real?
Yeah.
This doesn't look real.
And we get calls years after the fact, in fact. So
yeah. In fact.
Yes.
Yes. So Todd, you had another story that we had read about.
There's another story that's kind of related to this. It's an interesting one. By the way, you're listening to the Bald Brothers team at Impact Properties. Bald Brothers team, you can call us at 833-305-BALD. You can also go to baldbrothers.tv. And today we are talking about scams. We're talking about title scams, title fraud. And there's an interesting story. Now, imagine that you had lived in your childhood home and for years had dreamed about returning to your childhood home, even so much so that about 40 years prior, you bought a parcel of land and intended one day to deed that to your children, to your grandchildren, and then you return one day to the land that you own and find that there is a $1.5 million home that has been constructed and people are living in on that property. This is a story, and in fact, we'll give you a link to this article in our show notes. It's a very interesting story that comes out of Connecticut. A man who had actually done just that. He had actually looked forward to returning to his childhood home. He actually had purchased a parcel of land in 1991, and actually a connection to his childhood home that was purchased by his father in 1953.
Wow.
And so he purchased this land, and then he returns to it only to find that there's a property, a $1.5 million home that's on the property, and somewhere along the line, just like we talked about before, the fraud, title fraud, some fraud had taken place, and the property had been fraudulently sold to an LLC. And there had been, I think, some sales going back and forth.
It's sold multiple times, right?
I believe it was multiple times as I'm glancing through it. And so the sad story about this is I can't give you the final verdict because it's still under litigation. There's still actually, there's a court case pending, and they're continuing to fight for this issue. But there's just an example, and it's just one of many. This is not the only one, but just a unique thing. And it kind of goes along even with the episode that we talked about with squatters, because if you have a piece of land that you haven't been to in a long period of time, you better make sure that all of your ducks are in a row, and that there's no potential that someone has stolen that land from you.
This sounds scary, and as I'm listening to us talk, and we've rehearsed this, a couple times. We've talked about this and what we're going to say and what we're not going to say. It comes to mind that there are companies that fearmonger, that prey on homeowners, and they even have TV commercials on different things like this.
We hear them
to try to prevent fraud. And I just want to say some of those companies are like that other company that mails you something to charge you for something that you don't need. It's super important to really look through what you're getting, because some of those online companies or companies you might see on television that are offering you title, security, basically you're adding a policy to a policy. If you bought that home and you have a title policy, and then you buy another policy on top of it, essentially you're double insuring yourself, and so you may not need to spend the money. And with inflation and everything going up right now, we know that the state of most people's finances most people are not looking for more ways to spend money. And so, again, if you're in a situation where you think you need to buy something, have your real estate advisor talk to you about it. I have had that call, Todd, where somebody called me and just said, Aaron, I'm worried about my title. I'm worried about it being stolen. I'm worried about somebody putting their name on there or my property being sold out from underneath me.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what product are you considering purchasing to make sure that this is possible, preventable? And they told me, and I looked at it and I said, send me the information, and I reviewed it. And I said, all they're offering you is the same policy that you got when you bought the property.
Yeah.
So as you're buying properties, as you're closing escrow, you do want to make sure you have your preliminary title report and a copy of the Alta title policy, which is the title insurance policy that covers your property.
That's right.
You don't want to lose that.
That's right.
And if you do forget who your policy was, call your realtor and make sure you can track them down and find it.
You know, one thing that you find out very quickly when you're selling a home or buying a home for that matter, there's a lot of paperwork.
A lot of paperwork.
There's a lot of stuff to keep track of, and we get calls all the time from previous clients that are looking for paperwork, and those don't just suddenly go away at the end of a transaction. So yeah, definitely reach out to your realtor or whoever's representing you, and they can help you out with all of that.
Hey Todd, I want to ask you a question. If little separate topic here.
All right.
If somebody inherits a home and they've got vehicles that they want to sell or they need to dispose of,
yes,
walk me through that process. Or maybe I should walk you through that process, because I've been doing this.
I think the one to walk through the process is even you've really taken this on as a task. For those of you who we've talked about this before, we have a lot of probate sales that we do.
We do.
Probate transactions. In fact, we're going to have an upcoming episode where we talk all about probate.
That's right.
And the probate process. So stay tuned for that in an upcoming episode. But it oftentimes does happen when someone is deceased in the property. There's stuff left behind. Now, some things are easy to sell. You just put it on offer up, but a vehicle that has title and you got to deal with the DMV. It's not so easy. So, you know, that's a good question for you to answer, because you've been going through it. We've helped sell several vehicles this year. In fact, we're in the process of one property has about 5 different trucks that we're in the process of trying to find owners for.
Yeah. So not that we have a whole, blooming, sidecar business with a side business with cars. We simply want to offer our best services to our clients. And oftentimes when a property is inherited and they're out of state, you just got to deal with these things. And so we often find buyers that come look at the house and they're like, what about the property? We love the property, but what about the trucks, or what about the cars? And so it's kind of a natural service for us to say, hey, talk with the owner. Here's who you can talk to about buying these vehicles. But this process has been a lot longer on this one. It's a fairly new vehicle, and we had to we tried to sell it, but it was a lease vehicle. Yeah. And dealerships won't buy back vehicles that are on leases. You have to turn it in, and oftentimes you have to turn it in with a penalty. And so the owner who's handling the estate decided, we don't want to do that. We think we can make more money rather than just walking away from it. And so they paid off the lease, and then we get the title back from the lease company. It still has their name on it because it has to be recorded into the owner's name. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, we've got a different owner different power of attorney that's signing all the paperwork. And so in this issue that I'm working with now, we have been to AAA twice because they've been very helpful, and I'm a member there, and so that's amazing that they have a DMV department, so you don't have to wait through the DMV. And so I've gone in there with him. We've done all the paperwork. We now have the property, the truck in his name, in the brother's name who's helping his other brother, and so now we can finally sell the truck. You know how long it's been? It's been
earlier this year.
Well, it's been about...
It's been a few months now.
It's been a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So meanwhile, there's a truck that needs to be sold, and it's taken at least 2 months now to get to the point where we feel like we're going to be able to sell it.
Yeah, and by the way, I should clarify, this is different than the property I just said that has 5 trucks. This is a different property. Yeah. And by the way, this is a property that we actually closed escrow on already. And we're continuing to help the one with power of attorney take care of this transaction.
That's right. That's right. And in the probate one, It should be a lot simpler because she'll have the letter of authority.
Yeah.
And then there is one piece of paper that she can sign that's a probate document that goes with the title when they're sold.
Yeah.
So that's actually going to be much easier. But this is a little different one because there was a lease. It wasn't paid off. Nobody wants to buy a lease entitled
it's a little
truck.
bit more messy.
Yeah, it is messy. So all that to say, we do what needs to be done.
Yeah, we do what needs to. And by the way, if you want to know what needs to be done, give us a call. We are the Bald Brothers team with Impact Properties, and you can reach us at 833-305-BALD, B-A-L-D. You can also go to baldbrothers.tv online to get all of our contact information. And today we're talking about scams, but we kind of delved into the area of our auto dealership side hustle.
Yeah. And I'm not an auto dealer.
No, we're
just
not.
making sure we're not licensed for that.
We got to clarify. No, we are not licensed.
We're just like, here's the buyer, here's the owner, you two talk. You take care of it. I'm not doing nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
So it's super important. We're bound by licensing. We're bound by fiduciary duties. And we always want to do what's in the best interest of our clients. And so if you are thinking about selling and you own a property right now, the best advice that we can give you is to seek advice of a legal professional. Not legal, sorry, a real estate professional.
Yeah.
My words are not flowing like they normally do, Todd, today. But seek the advice of a real estate professional to point you in the right direction. And your real estate professional should be very well connected to other professions. So if you need legal advice, they can give you advice on who to talk to. If you need to talk to a CPA about a tax situation, you go talk to a CPA and they'll tell you that. If you need to talk to some other professional in a different marketplace, they should be able to give you a referral to the right people that you need to talk to.
That's right.
Because you want to make sure that you start to line all your ducks up in order so that when you go to sell, that it's at the least amount of headache and hassle as possible.
Yeah. It's all about making those connections with the right people. And we started off the episode talking about scams and title fraud. And that's an example of making sure you're getting the right connections. That first of all, you have a realtor that knows what he or she is doing. But then secondly, that realtor has connection with a good title insurance policy, a company rather.
That's right. And one of the things we do very early on in the process of working with our sellers is we will order a preliminary title report that shows all of the legal owners and all of the debts that have been liened against the property. And we get to go through that together and say, is this real? Is this you? Who is this?
Yeah.
And so it's important to start that process early.
It's crucial to get that at the very beginning. Just like you said, we actually had one earlier it was last year, I believe it was, where I had been working with this particular seller for, I think, almost 3 years. And early on, we got the preliminary title report and found out that he didn't have complete ownership because he had been through a divorce. And his ex-wife was now living in France. And she did not want to, according to the judgment from the court, everything was supposed to go over to the husband. And she didn't want to sign the quitclaim deed.
Was a hassle.
That was a hassle. We had to go overseas. We had to send documents overseas.
We went overseas? No.
We didn't go overseas, but we sent the documents.
Hunted her down.
She had them translated into French and then sent them back. It was a big deal. But all that, we caught that early on. And yes, it was a hassle, but we caught it early on because we got the title report and we learned it very early that before he could even sell the house, we had to go through this battle.
So if you are going through any situation where you need to sell your house, we are the Bald Brothers team here at Impact Properties, and guess what we do? We sell homes. Yes, we do. So you can reach out to us at 833-305-BALD. That's 833-305-BALD. You can go online to baldbrothers.tv. And just a reminder, if you'd like a free copy of the book once it's published, please go to our website, subscribe today, and we'll send you a digital copy. Yep. And next time, tune in. We're going to talk. We've got a long list of things that we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk all things real estate. We've got a lot to come, so stay tuned. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to the All Things Real Estate Show. The Bald Brothers team is a licensed DBA of Impact Properties, Inc., licensed by the California Department of Real Estate number 019222671. Again, we do not give any real estate, legal, or financial advice, and we do encourage you to seek the advice of the proper professionals. If you'd like to reach us, you can call us at 833-305-BALD, or you can reach us online at baldbrothers.tv. Equal housing opportunity.